This was catastrophic for the Democrats, was it not? Your thoughts on the debate last night?
It was so catastrophic that it has very quickly metastasized into the theory that it must have been intentional, right? Like an intentional effort to displace Biden, which we're all so traumatized as Republicans when it comes to how we're treated by the mainstream media and by all of the institutions of this country that are so willing to use double standards and employ um, hypocrisy in their strategies against us, that it's easy to default to that assumption that this is
Yeah.
part of some grand conspiracy. There's another take out there that resonates with my experience, and that is that this is never a tribute to some grand conspiracy, what can just as easily be attributed to stupidity and incompetence.
Yeah.
And I think the folks who are tied to Biden and whose careers depend upon him getting a second term truly were drinking the Kool-Aid and thought that because they've been uplifted to this point, they will continue to be uplifted no matter what. But even they could not
Yeah.
maintain the facade.
I wonder how many of those independents, right? Left are going to left and right are going to right. It's those independents that really matter in all this. I wonder how many actually saw it, because here's what gets me about it. They're fact checking. 29 fact checkers keep it up. And President Trump said, I was the greatest president of all time. Lie. And they throw lie out like it's no, like, yeah, of course he believes
It's a
he's the,
subjective statement.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But that's a terminal lie. They're going to say that he did it. Okay. What I don't understand is I watch CNN last night, and I do this on purpose to get the other side. I want to know what they're saying about this. So as soon as that thing's over, I'm watching the CNN panel, and one of their announcers that literally was on TV a week ago saying he knows Joe Biden. And Joe Biden can run laps around us in a day, and he can talk politics while doing origami and a puzzle at the same time. He literally was saying last week how this guy was a mental giant. And last night, as soon as that debate was over, he's like, that's the saddest thing I've ever seen. This is a terrible thing. He knew it. You want to talk about lying. Lying is misleading an entire channel for however long is up till now until you just can't do it anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? That's what Trump thinks he's the greatest president. I believe Trump believes that. You know what I'm saying? I have no doubt he thinks that. But it's different how we're graded. And maybe that's what I'm throwing out there. How do you, if you were a Democrat, what do you do? The CNN panel, all saying it was done. Joe has to step aside. There's no room here. Somebody's got to talk him out of this, get him off the ticket. They gave up in 90 minutes what this guy's supposedly done in a 40-year career. They gave up on CNN.
Well, if I was a Democrat, I'd be approaching this with an entirely different mentality and an entirely different set of morals. And so what I would do is what the rest of them are doing, which is I would read off my assigned card and say, "Oh, the okay has been granted to tell the truth about Joe Biden, so that
Yeah.
we can replace him." That's what happened. We all saw it happen in real time. Now, so to combine that with what I said before, I don't think it's part of some grand conspiracy, but I do think the decision was made institutionally last night that, okay, we can finally acknowledge what everybody else sees clearly.
Now you do this. You're in the life of this. Me and a couple others were discussing. I'm not sure how it works. I know the Democrats have this thing called the super delegate, which is like 3 times the power of the regular delegate, and there's some wiggle room. They use that with Bernie Sanders not wanting him in. I get there's some fudging there, but other than Kamala, realistically, can they do anything except move her up? My point is, let's say they convince, just we're playing here. Biden says, I this is too much. I want to be there for my son Hunter. I'm going to step down. Okay, whatever. They leapfrog the black lady vice president who would be next in line and say, you know what? People like you less than Joe. You're out. Couldn't they even do that without upsetting the entire Democratic Party and say, what are you talking about? We're about women. We're about black people. We're about, treating our people right. And you just jumped over her. You get my point? Is it possible that they jump over Kamala?
Well, I mean, this is the difficulty for the Democrats, right? And the reason why I think they've let it get to this point, rather than just running somebody else in the first place, and that is they don't have a bench. Like they don't have a clear person who's not just ready. There's plenty of people who want to do it,
Yeah.
but who is viable and who can unify not just the United States. That's what that we have to look at in towards October, November, right?
Yeah.
But can unify the Democrat cat fight that
Well,
is their party.
well, that's kind of my point. I mean, look at Gavin Newsom. He's waiting in the wings. The guy's slick as all get out, runs the biggest country, or the state. He'd be great. But you tell me, and again, maybe I'm throwing race in here. I'm sure you're going to jump over everything you've been talking about and say, well, we really need the white guy from California. He's just smooth.
Right.
How do you pull that off? I don't know. So anyway, that scares me a little bit. Now I'm going to be honest with you. I was worried going into this because a lot on our side. Boy, he's going to be a bumbling idiot. And we got what we got. How nervous should we be? And I'll say the CNN guy again. One of the guys came back after the Kamala interview where she was, by the way, did her job. She stuck up for him, got 40 years, 90 minutes isn't going to change it. She did great. But the guy comes back and said, look how good she did. Who do you think after tonight is running the country? And my head goes, it's a good point. Is that guy who we just saw having those meetings with Putin, who would run rings around him in that condition? Or is it Kamala, or who is it that's running the country? It was a good point, and the CNN guy made it. It wasn't a conspiracy right-wing nut job saying Biden doesn't run the country. You kind of got to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been run by committee, I think. I don't know that there's any one person who is calling the shots, but it's definitely being run by a committee. And the kind of dominant theory is that we're experiencing the third term of Barack Obama, that he's behind the scenes influencing the way things are going. And that's not entirely implausible because a lot of the people that are part of the Biden administration have the connections to that wing of the Democrat Party. But what's really shocking to consider is the fact that we've all just kind of been contented ourselves with this idea that somebody who's clearly not in charge of the country is in charge of the country.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, and that in the context of being lectured about threats to democracy, there's no greater threat to democracy than not knowing who's in charge of it. Right.
Exactly. And let's go back to your original point. How can this not be planned? And what I mean by that is if this is our president, fades in and out sometimes. We've all had relatives like this, or Uncle Bob, whatever, he not so far you're going to put him in the home, but at some points he's not talking straight. We know these people. The Democrats, Biden's people said, we want to debate. We want to do it the earliest debate ever. We're going to give him a week off to prep because he's going to, they set him up. There is no reason this debate ever had to happen if this is who that guy is. Is it a one-off and saying, well, we wouldn't have done it if we thought, you know what I'm saying? There's no way this wasn't planned because somebody decided they wanted it now and they wanted it hard, and this is who we have.
Well, the alternative theory is that because, again, look at the fact that how rigged this thing was in Biden's favor. No audience.
Yeah.
A couple of minutes per response. Mics turned off, but for the candidate who isn't talking. Everything, CNN, Jake Tapper, right? I mean, you could not possibly rig a debate to be more favorable to Joe Biden than they did. And so the counter theory to the theory you're expressing is that they, in fact, expected that with all of the benefits that they were granting the incumbent, Joe Biden, that he was going to be able to maybe not win, but at least maintain. And having it this early would keep people from being able to, they wouldn't be thinking about it in October or November when ballots are being cast.
Of course, the meme guys and the audio cutter guys, they're all out there putting together the clips of all the stumbling. Let me share with you the point where I knew we were in real trouble, and I think as a country. Joe Biden takes a week to practice this, to get us up. Now, he's the president. He gets debriefed every flipping day on everything going on in the world. I don't know how much prep you need. They would presumably know these are topics that are coming up. What I mean by that, the border, the this and the that, and Social Security would be one of those. They went to Biden first with 2 minutes to talk Social Security. He got rambling, stopped, and the guy said, "You have 82 seconds to go. Would you like to go on?" If the president of the United States, with a week's practice, can't come up with 2 minutes on Social Security, we're in trouble. A politician, 40 years worth of he should have been able to do 25 minutes on it before he got to any decent points. That's when I looked and I said, we're in trouble. He couldn't fill 2 minutes on a topic he should have 20 points on. When did you feel, I mean, was it the first time you saw him, but when did you feel that we were missing something? That was the moment for me. He couldn't fill 2 minutes.
I mean, I hate to say it, but he met my expectations. This is the Joe Biden that I've been seeing for the whole term. So, I mean, what it's come down to apparently is that there's no cocktail of medication that you can come up with to counter his frailty at this point. And so I was not surprised.
That. You've heard his entire staff saying, and he's the sharpest guy in the room. You literally have him come out last week saying it's all this fake tapes or faker tapes or whatever. You're not getting the whole thing. Well, now I think we got to a point where you have to believe your lying eyes. I mean, the American people, there were no jump cuts. It was literally from 90 minutes of top to bottom. You can see it with your eyes.
Well, and I think the point that needs to be made there is that if people are willing to lie to your face about something that's so obvious, and of course that shouldn't surprise us, right? These are the same people that say men can be women and that women can be men, and that it's somehow a good thing that it costs 2 times as much to buy groceries as it did at some point in the past. These are folks who are willing to lie to your face. I'm rewatching the show House of Cards, and one of the things that I find very interesting about it is they have all these media cameos, right? So they'll have like Van Jones or guys from CNN. Or what strikes me is how good those people are at acting in a fictional show. It's almost as if they have experience, right? Yeah. It's almost as if they know how to take a script and riff on it and make it seem like what they're saying is what they authentically believe. These people are rank liars. They all are. They always have been. And I think the real introspection needs to go to ourselves of why do we tolerate this? Wow. Why do we have such low self-esteem as a people that we're willing to endure and tolerate being disrespected to our faces with something like putting Joe Biden up in front of us and expecting us to believe that he's the sharpest guy in the room?
I love that. That's a great analysis. I got to go to break. When we come back, we got to talk a little more Minnesota stuff. We won't have a lot of time. But I don't remember the name of the 2 robbers in Home Alone, but I think they're part of the Feeding Our Futures debacle going on. We're going to talk about that right after this with Representative Walter Hudson.